You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Welcome into another 3-Mod Pod. I am John Kurtz, joined by Cole Manbeck, former beat writer for the Manhattan Mercury. We do not have DY today, but that's okay because we have a very special guest. Instead of Derek Young, we got Kevin Sutton from the K-State basketball staff. He is the director of strategies with K-State basketball, longtime assistant, 36 years of coaching experience, elite high school head coach. He's had 15 years as a Division I assistant going into this year with K-State, and very excited to get his perspective on the Cats and what's happening with this team now. They got a really nice win on Saturday, 61-55 over Iowa State. K-State projected as a 3 seed by the NCAA selection committee. Really not even a projection. They're the ones that handle it, right? So that a lot of good news flowing for the Cats ever since Saturday. Before we get to Coach Sutton, do have to remind you, make sure to get your 360 vodka, your Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond bourbon ready to go next time you're watching the Cats, or any occasion for that matter. If you are a bourbon guy, definitely go the Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond bourbon route. 360 vodka there to help you out as well. Holiday Distillery, great sponsors of the pod, and great K-State folks as well who help us out. So support those who support us, and we've certainly been supporting Kevin Sutton and the Cats all year long. Appreciate you hopping on with us, Coach. Just tell me what this first year has been like for you with Coach Tang and company in the Little Apple.
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on. I do a lot of podcasts, but this is one of the podcasts that I wanted to do. I told Cole I tell Cole every time I see him, I'm like, hey, man, when are you going to have me on? Like that, and finally made it happen. So I'm super excited to have this opportunity to be on with you guys today. This year has just been absolutely tremendous. I've had the pleasure of knowing, Coach Tang for the better part of 25 years. We first met at a 5-star basketball camp as high school coaches. And then we just remained, friends and stayed in contact with each other. And we both followed our career paths, at the high school ranks of developing high school programs, and then moved on the collegiate ranks. And then we both moved up the proverbial coaching ladder. And we just stayed in contact. And then, we had an opportunity last spring when Jerome took the job here at K-State. And they offered me the position that I have here today. And I just jumped at the opportunity to join his staff because I believe in him as a leader, first and foremost. And then I listened to his press conference and knew of his vision to come here to elevate a program. And I just wanted to be a part of it. So I'm just, this first year, it's just been tremendous.
You bring up how far you go back with him. I was going to ask about that, but along those same lines, like Uric and Jerome, when we've had them on the pod before, they kind of talked about like, hey, I always knew in the back of my mind I'd probably wind up on a staff with him someday when he took a head coaching job. Was it a situation like that where you knew all along, hey, if this guy, if and when he takes a head coaching job, this might be something I do?
I would be less than honest to say that. I mean, Jerome and I've always had a really good relationship, but this business is a tough business, and but he's a likable person, and he met a lot of people along his coaching path, and so have I. I do believe that in destiny, and we're both Christians, and I believe in fate. So the good Lord put us together, and I'm really glad to have this opportunity to be a part of this entire staff because we have an outstanding staff.
Well, you spent most of your career on the East Coast, though, Coach. Was there any hesitation when Manhattan, Kansas, and coming from Florida to Manhattan? What was the thought process when he offered you the job?
Yeah, absolutely. I've spent majority of my coaching career on the East Coast and the Northeast as well as the Southeast, and and this is the furthest west that I brought my career and brought my family. So it was a lot of nights where my family and I sat together and we prayed and talked about this and what it would look like. But when you have an opportunity to come to come to a Power 5 school and to come to the Big 12, which is without question the best college conference in the country right now, and then when you have an opportunity to get on the ground level with a person like Jerome Tang and you listen to his press conference and you hear him talk about his vision and how he plans on building this program. And then you remember back to the days where we were both young coaches, aspiring coaches trying to, break into this business. And you see a lot of similarities to his thought processes between then and now. I definitely wanted to be a part of this from the inception. And I'm really glad I made the decision to join his staff this year.
Well, what have your impressions been? You and your wife's impressions of Manhattan and the people here and game days in Bramlage Coliseum?
Oh, it's been fantastic. I came out here first, and just to see the facilities and know that you're in a Power 5 school and a great conference like the Big 12, and then just to go out on recruiting trips and on campus and take our recruits to the football stadium and then see the atmosphere up on the screen and then listen to the people talk about how it's going to be. It was just really, really exciting. So I would go home and tell my wife and my oldest son, like, this is just going to be fantastic. Football season is going to be like we always wanted it to be, to go see big time football, and then basketball games are going to be super excited. Because I actually came out here when I was an assistant at George Washington University, and we played against K-State when Frank Martin was the coach. So I had experienced the Octagon of Doom, so I knew what it looked like then. But to be here now, to be here now and be a part of it and see the sellout crowds, it's just been fantastic. It's something that I will always cherish.
With the title Director of Strategies, I'm sure there's a lot that can fall under that. But for those that aren't as familiar, with what your role is here on the staff, take us through what the day-to-day is like for you on the staff.
Well, I mean, it's the Director of Strategy title is a title that's is very vast and broad. So I'm involved with the formation of the game plans, obviously scouting responsibilities, but primarily with the skill development piece of our program, which is very important, and Coach Tang brought from Baylor. So that's primarily what my job is to make sure that we continue to improve our student athletes and the ones that are playing, as well as our red shirts like Jerome Coleman, Anthony Thomas, Taj Manning, and then run the scout teams, and so that's a big part of what my job is, as well as help in the formation of practices and the game plans for our team.
When you talk about this coaching staff and really the team as a whole, I mean, one thing that struck us, I think I can speak for us, and saying that right away, is just how together everybody is, how unified everybody seems to be, just how tight like everybody is on the coaching staff. And what's cool, you're a guy that's been an assistant a lot of different places. Mm-hmm. How rare is that? How unique is what K-State has with both the staff and the players?
I apologize.
Oh, no problem. How unique is what you guys have with the relationship going on between not just you guys as coaches, but with coaches and players, just like a family environment with the coaching staff?
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes to who Jerome Tang is as a person, first and foremost, and then everyone believes in his leadership philosophy and style, and then also it speaks volumes to his ability to recruit. He's an outstanding recruiter and has been for a number of years, and so you can tell and see a lot of thought has gone into the putting together our staff. And what the other thing that you can see is that everyone is definitely all in. We're all into making sure that Jerome's first year here at K-State is a successful year as we move forward to building a successful program. And but I'd say that it goes back to him as a person, and then second, him as a leader, and then obviously his ability to coach. So all those things that we believe in, we want to support him and make sure that he is doing and fulfilling his dream. As he's waited 19 years as an assistant, and this is his first year as a head coach. So the fulfillment of his dream is something that we all want to be a part of.
Coach, looking at the on-the-court success, when you just look at Saturday against Iowa State, just how big was that effort, especially in the second half, and getting that win?
Oh, it was absolutely huge because, like we all know, night in and night out here in the Big 12, every game is competitive. And I tell all my friends, I said, I've been in the ACC, I've been in the Big East, I've been in a lot of great conferences, Atlantic 10 twice. I said, but there's no league like the Big 12. Just take, for example, we went down to Texas Tech and came up short. And then we come home and go back and fly down to Oklahoma and then don't play well down at Oklahoma. And those two teams were, in the bottom of the conference. But now you see Texas Tech has won 4 games and just recently went into Morgantown and won a huge game there. And then Oklahoma turns right back around and goes on the road and takes Texas into overtime. So for us to come out on the winning end against a very good Iowa State team that beat us first and foremost in Iowa early this year, and then runs a good offense and has outstanding talent. It was huge. It was huge for us to come back home and to get a win, and I'm really happy that we did. And I really believe that this is going to be the what's going to catapult us, hopefully, as we continue to play out our regular season and go into the Big 12 tournament, and then hopefully go far in the NCAA tournament.
Look, I don't have to tell you this, but everybody in this league has had rough stretches and skids, right? You can go through the best teams in the league, and Kansas included, Baylor. Everybody's had a rough stretch, but you guys are no different than that as well. You guys just went through that rough stretch. What was that like these last 3 or so weeks? And did confidence in the guys, did they ever lose confidence? Did you guys have to fight to keep the emotional highs and keep them lifted, or how were they? How did everyone respond to that?
You know what? I think Coach Tang said the best is, these are life experiences, because we, got off to a great start. We exceeded some people's expectations. We always knew that we had talent. It was a rough period without question, because we didn't play our best, and the league is so competitive. But we had to continue to do and control the things that we could control. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but it was absolutely what we had to do. And I harken back to Coach Tang's leadership ability. He did a tremendous job of leading our team, and he has a tremendous amount of emotional intelligence, and he uses it often, with our team in terms of motivating and keeping those guys locked into what has always been our number one objective. Is to continue to get better and go 1-0 each day, and just get 1% better, just 1% better. So we had to probably go back to the basics, and then get 1% better with that mindset. And we did that, and we shortened practices, and we did some things that will enable our team to hopefully mentally, physically, spiritually continue to get back on the right track.
Yeah, I want to hit on that. Coach Tang mentioned in the post-game press conference the other night that, that was something he felt like really helped. You guys didn't have the legs necessary against Oklahoma and Tech. What was the conversation like? How difficult is that as a coaching staff to try and decide, like, okay, are we leading into, like, hey, we're not getting the effort we want, we need to work these guys harder, versus maybe it's time to pull back here at this point in the season? How tough is that as a staff?
Oh, it's very tough, and it happens all the time in sports, and in basketball in particular, because this is the sport that we're talking about. But it happens all the time, and as a coach, you have to listen to your staff. And Coach Tang does a tremendous job of including our staff at the input of our staff, and he listens. And there's sometimes you could see that he's come in and done the evaluation, and he wants to get into doing something in his mind that he wants to do. And then he'll listen and throw it out to our staff, and then we'll talk it over and flip it around. And then you can also see his mind is turning, like, well, maybe we might need to go in a different direction, now that I've taken in a little bit more input from our staff. And I think that's where we do a tremendous job of, in private, we have our discussions, but in public, we're on a united front. And so when we came out to our team, we decided on some changes that needed to be made. And we made those necessary changes, and the credit goes to our team, because they believed in us as a staff, and they went out there and bought into it, and then they went out and performed.
Well, on that note, Coach Tang, I think John and I were actually driving home together from the TCU game, and we were listening to the press conference of Coach Tang a couple weeks ago after that game, and Coach Tang said he can be a jackal if he wants. And after that Texas game, he became a jackal, and it was not a fun couple of days for the guys. So I'm curious, just a fun question here. What is the jackal version of Coach Tang is like? Because we don't see that necessarily. So what's that version of him like? What were those couple days like?
It was interesting, to say the least, because I had never seen that side of Coach Tang before. So I was right along with the players. It's just I understood from my maturity standpoint, and had been a former head coach myself, knowing that you have to change your personality sometimes, and get the kids to understand that we got to get back on the right track. But it was really interesting. Coach Tang came out of character, if you will. But it wasn't anything that I had not seen before from other coaches, and it was a little surprising to see it from him per se. But it wasn't anything that was wild and extreme. That people would think that, oh my God, Coach Tang lost his mind. No, he was in total control, and he knew what he wanted, exactly the message that he wanted to send to our team, and they received it in the way that they were supposed to, in a mature fashion.
I was going to ask about Marquise. It was great to see him get going again from 3-point range, 4-9 against Iowa State, and it seems like teams changed the way that they were defending him after that just red hot start where he was playing like a national player of the year there for the first 6 or 7 games of the conference season. What has that adjustment been like for him and for you guys as a staff to kind of see how teams have shifted the way that they played, both him and Keontae, frankly, after the starts that they had?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, our league is a copycat league, but our league has outstanding coaches in this league. And then we also have some outstanding players that have high basketball IQs, and they watch and they see what's going on, and they see who's playing well, and they look and see if there's a way that they can make sure that Marquise or Keontae don't have big games against them, and so it's been an adjustment period, but both of them are mature enough to handle it. That hey, every time I catch the ball, get a ball screen, they're going to try to double team me. Every time I catch the ball on the block, they're going to try to, Keontae's going to be doubled here, So they're understanding they got to trust their teammates even more. They got to make the next right play. But it was really good to see both of them play on their play on Saturday, which was back to, I guess you say, back to a level of normalcy that they had brought from earlier in the year. But got a great deal of help from their teammates, which is always helpful when you're being the top dog on everyone's scouting report. It's always helpful when you get contributions from other players on your team, so that they can't totally strategize against you. So Marquise has a high basketball IQ, and Keontae has seen double teams before, and they made the necessary adjustments to have success on Saturday.
Well, on that note, Coach, thinking about Keontae, and look, John can attest to this. I'm the biggest critic of college basketball officiating that there is, and I'm not gonna ask you to comment on anything that's gonna get you in trouble. But when you think about Keontae and some of the charge calls that have been called against him, has that forced him to change the way that he's playing and kind of his mindset a little bit? Have to adjust with some of these guys? I'll just be flat out honest. Some guys flopping and getting the reward of the call against Keontae when he's just bigger and stronger. I mean, how has that impacted him and how he's playing?
Well, he's had to be smarter. He's had to recognize that, and every game is officiated differently, Cole, and I think that. So as a player, you have to see how the game is going to be officiated. One thing that we do a great job of here is understanding who our officials are going to be, and we kind of track, them as officials, and watch how many games that they, call and how they call games. Some games they call it very tight. Other games they let far more go on. So we try to educate our players about that, and Keontae's had to make the adjustment, to how the game is being officiated. If it's a closely officiated game, then no, you're not going to be able to drive in there. You have to rely on other aspects of your game. But if it's a game where you can drive down there and they're not going to call those type of fouls, then you make that adjustment as well, and you drive the ball far, a lot more than you settle for your mid-range or your long-range game.
We're gonna have to have an off-the-record conversation sometime about the whole officiating scouting report. That's right up my alley.
I was gonna say, first of all, I feel like Cole could just do that for you. I don't know if that's
if you have a role that if you guys want to add a staff role that can be like director of basketball officiating for the staff, like I'd be happy to track that stuff for you guys, because I'm already doing it. Coach, I used to go to a website called statsheet.com, and I would track all the officials in college basketball and how many technicals they would call, how many fouls per game they would get called in their game, and then see who was officiating our game. And I was just a big nerd like that. All right. And so, before the games, I always tell John, I'm like, look, here's the 3 refs today. I name them. And he's always like, is there a single ref that you like? There's a couple, but anyways, I digress.
Cole, I'll make sure that that Coach knows that you are a numbers guy, because he's a numbers guy. So with all these analytics going, why not have a guy who's in charge of?
I'm already doing it too. So might as well I'll just be a consultant. You don't have to add me full time. I'll send you guys texts, messages, emails, breakdowns.
I love it. We can add it to the scout report.
There we go, man. Getting Cole an extra job here on the podcast today. Love it. Hey, I want to, you mentioned that a big part of your job is working skill development and with the younger guys that are redshirting right now. And we heard Coach Tang speak up about Taj Manning pretty strongly the other day, saying that he's going to be an all Big 12 player at some point here. For guys like he and Jarrell that you're working with that are younger, what are you seeing from those guys right now? And why does Coach Tang say that about Taj? What are you seeing out of him?
Well, first and foremost, as we all know, Coach Tang is an outstanding evaluator of talent. That's the first and foremost. So that statement is an accurate statement. What I'm seeing on a consistent daily basis from Jarrell, Dorian Finister, Anthony Thomas, Taj Manning, all those guys on a consistent basis, they work extremely hard, and you see them continue to grow as players. That physically they're growing. They work hard in the weight room with Phil, our strength and conditioning coach. And it's translated over to their game. And then just think about it for a second here. Every day Taj Manning has the opportunity to go up against, Keontae Johnson. So we all know that Keontae's a very, very talented player. First team all-league player, and possibly, hopefully, an NBA, draft pick. So for Taj to have that opportunity to guard him every day, and then on the flip side, go against him and have, Keontae guard him, it's only going to make him better. Seeing the old Bible passage of iron sharpens iron. And the same thing with Jarrell. Jarrell has to go every day in practice. He got to go against, David. He's got to go against Naquan. He's got to go against Bebe. And all 3 of those are different types of players. So he's just making the adjustment and adjusting to his game. And he's adding strength, and he's gaining maturity and physical maturity. And he's able to now make plays in practice on a consistent basis. Dorian Finister the exact same way. I mean, how about you? Your part of your job is to guard, Marquise Noel every day in practice. Or you got to guard Desi, or you got to guard Cam. You're going to get better. And then on the flip side of that, they work on their offensive skills and their shooting, but the physical maturation is what I'm seeing on a daily basis. That's really added to their game. And I would agree with Coach Tang 1,000%. By the time that Taj graduates from K-State, I think Taj will be, an all Big 12 player.
We brought up a couple times the 3 seed coming out from the committee already here. And, I can remember Jerome even saying at one point, that he didn't exactly expect this level of success this fast that you guys have put together this year. Just in context of the entire season, I know you're kind of in the thick of it right now, the heat of the moment, but can you take a step back and reflect on, we're sitting here in late February. You guys are being picked last in the league, only 2 players from last year. You're a 3 seed according to the committee right now. Did you expect this kind of success this fast?
No, I didn't. I would be, less than honest to say, hey, I knew this was what was going to happen. What I did know was that the things that we were doing and putting into place were the right things that were going to build a program that was going to have success and then have the ability to sustain that success. Because I've been around programs as an assistant head coach and associate head coach, and then eventually becoming a head coach all at the high school level, of how to build programs and put systems in place and build foundational, build the foundation. And I saw all of that. I saw, Jerome's thinking, I saw Jerome's vision. And then I saw how we were putting things in place. And then confidence was a huge thing. The consistency of Coach Tang's words and his actions from day one have led to everyone having confidence, and believing in him when he says that we're going to be successful or we're going to do this. And so our kids were no different. They believed in, Coach from the beginning. And then once they believed in him, they start to buy into what we were teaching them because it was sound and it was right. And then it just helped lead to us being successful on the court. And then once we, start playing on the court and having success on the court, it led to us being more confident, in our abilities. And then we're sitting here right now, like you said, in a great spot. And hopefully we do end up with a 3 seed in the NCAAs in our first year. And that would be nothing short than remarkable.
I mean, it'd be amazing, Coach. We covered the team. I covered the team in 2009-10 when K-State was a 2 seed, and you have to go back. I mean, that's the highest seed K-State's had in the NCAA tournament in about 30 years, and you guys are right there on the doorstep of being at a 2 seed level. When K-State won a share of the Big 12 title in 12-13 and 18-19, they were a 4 seed both times. So take that into context of what you guys are doing and the high quality wins that you have on your resume. It's really remarkable what you guys have done as a staff, and I hope all of you know how much we appreciate everything that you guys do. You're great human beings, you're great people, but you've done a heck of a job coaching these guys as well.
Well, thank you very much, Cole, for all of that. The support has been, unbelievable. But when you just put all of that in perspective with those numbers, that's a heck of an accomplishment, and it's something that we don't take lightly, and we certainly don't take the support lightly that we've been given through the Kansas State that fan base. So we really appreciate it.
Well, circling back to the player development angle, Coach. So you guys have, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have 5 graduate assistants on staff.
We do. We have 5 graduate assistants that are eventually going to be outstanding coaches. They work extremely hard, and in school, and also, here, within our basketball program. So yes, we do, and they're eventually are going to have great careers in the business of basketball. I'm not, whether it be coaching or in the front office or in scouting, at the collegiate level or at the professional level, they all have bright futures.
Well, and I was going to ask, I mean, that's obviously a critical part of the player development, I assume, as well, because those guys can be in the gym with your players as much as possible anytime they want to be in the gym. And I think that's also part of your role. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you work with those GAs and make sure they're coached up.
Absolutely. The rule just passed by the NCAA, so now starting July 1, I can actually be out on the floor. And that's one of the primary reasons why I accepted the job from Coach Tang, because we knew the rule was going to pass. We just didn't know when. We were both hopeful that it was going to pass right away, but nonetheless, it passed. It passed in January and will go in effect in July. So then I actually will be out on the court with the players. But back to the GAs. So this whole year, I spent a great deal of time with them, talking about what individual players need, and then what they need to work on before the season, end season, and then and then postseason, and they do a great job. And then I give them enough. My term is I give them enough room, a runway, so they can land the plane. So I give them parameters as to you should be working on Dorian should be working on this, Jarrell should be working on that, and then I give them enough latitude that they come up with drills, to meet the objective. But then certainly I will talk them through workouts and how to structure the workouts so we can gain the most benefit in the players, because that's what their job is, to make sure that they're available and accessible. So whenever the players want to get into the gym, they can get into the gym with a graduate assistant, a manager, and actually work on their games, because that's what we want is to not to recruit through the transfer portal all the time. We want to develop players. They come here as freshmen, and develop them through our player development system that we have in place.
Well, make sure to tell my guy Curtis Kelly hi for me. That was man. Cole and I were both I was in school when he was in school, and man, love Jacob Pullen to death. But Kurt was my dude, man. I've still got to hang in my closet somewhere. So,
hey, Kurt, I will certainly do that. Kurt's one of the best. He's going to graduate this spring, which is an outstanding accomplishment. And he's going to be an outstanding coach. He has a great feel for the game, high basketball IQ, And but he also has a great feel and a finger on the pulse of how the players think. And so he's able to also, which is really good. He can get out there and if they can't figure it out, he can show them. So it's a great thing too. But Kurt's done a great job, and I'm really, really proud of him. So when he graduates in spring, you don't be surprised to see that he'll be on someone's staff. This spot, moving into the next year. So.
Well, before I let you go, I mean, I've been enjoying asking this to all you guys that are relatively new to Manhattan. I mean, Cole and I have spent a ton of time there. I spent the better part of a decade and a half there. Where's your favorite spot in Manhattan? Whether that's like a bite to eat, place to hang out, whatever it might be.
You know what? I'm probably biased to Aggieville. My son, he loves going down there. My son and daughter, going down to Aggieville. I don't really have a favorite spot, if you would. I do like Colbert Hills. I like that a lot. And then the winery, going out to the winery in the fall, and then certainly I'm waiting for it in the spring, and being up there to have a glass of wine with my wife and family and overlook the vineyards and see the beautiful landscape. So those would be my favorite spots.
You got it nailed down pretty well. Sounds like Manhattan. Hey, Coach, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. Congratulations on all the success that you've had this year, and best of luck moving forward, man. We can't wait to watch how you guys finish this out.
Again, thank you so much for having me on. This has been a blast. Like I said, I've always been telling Cole for a couple of weeks, month now. I was like, man, you got to get me on there. You got to get me on there. And I'm really glad that he did. And thanks so much for having me, because this has been a lot of fun. Really enjoy talking, hoops and K-State basketball with knowledgeable people. So thanks so much.
All right, that is Kevin Sutton. Pleasure to have him on the podcast here today, Director of Strategy on the K-State men's basketball staff. I mean, look, I just love, obviously a very affable guy, great personality, but being able to have a guy who's been an assistant at Georgetown, George Washington, I mean, just a ton of places over a 15-year career in Division I basketball, and then has worked with elite-level high school players. To just have that guy on staff as the Director of Strategy, I think is a really valuable point to accentuate here about this staff and what Coach Tang has done with everybody that he's brought in here. I mean, just the depth of coaching talent they have on the staff is pretty incredible. So, I think that, like a lot of people have noticed, Cole, like there are a lot more seats on the bench this time around than there were under Bruce Weber, and we've seen this for years with guys like Chris Beard. I can remember watching Beard come into Bramlage a couple of years ago at Texas Tech and be like, man, he has like 30 guys on staff. Like, I think there are obvious benefits to it, and we're seeing that play out this year.
I mean, I think it's an absolutely huge hire, like getting Kevin Sutton on the staff. I remember when we saw pictures of him visiting Manhattan that were circulating as Coach Tang was putting his staff together, and you're looking at some of these guys that are leaving full-time assistant coaching positions on staffs at Division I schools to come to Kansas State. And, some of them have come and support staff. Like you've got Marco Bourne, who left an assistant coaching position at Alcorn State to become the director of basketball operations. Anthony Winchester, I want to say, left an assistant coaching job at Southern Mississippi to join the staff and his role as well. So you just have such a highly qualified staff of talented individuals with tons of experience. It's just the right blend and mix that you would want, and love this staff. And I can't say enough good things about Coach Sutton and all this staff. But I mean, like you said a couple weeks ago when you tweeted it, John, I mean, this staff is full of amazing human beings, and they're great people. Not only are they great at what they do, but they totally get it. I've gotten to experience it firsthand, but they engage with kids. They engage with all of the fan base. They'll wait around. They'll take pictures. They'll sign autographs. I was on the court 20 minutes after the game on Saturday against Iowa State, and Coach Tang waited around, took pictures, signed everyone's jerseys that was there waiting for him. The players did the same. And, it's special. Like, you don't get that everywhere. And these guys completely understand how to engage with the fan base. And it just makes all the more fun when they're winning.
Yeah, you were correct about Anthony Winchester, by the way, says the internets. So,
all right. Yeah.
Really appreciate Kevin Sutton and obviously the entire coaching staff, especially because they beat Iowa State. That is always a good thing. 61-55 at Bramlage. And man, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I felt bad. My poor guy Joe, who helps out with my YouTube channel a little bit as a moderator with the chats. Like, he saw me at halftime, Cole, and you obviously saw me at halftime. I sat behind you for the first half and then changed the juju in the second half and went and sat somewhere else, and it worked. So I will just point that out. But I mean, I was pissed. Like, I was just, it's been a really rough couple of weeks, to watch the team. And I look, fully get the context. Texas Tech's playing much better. Oklahoma, they're not horrendous losses, but it was really frustrating to watch them take those back-to-back losses. And then you score 23 points in the first half against Iowa State. And you're thinking, like, man, this just feels kind of like the same old, but they ratcheted up that defensive intensity in the second half. Marquise hit a couple of outside shots after he went 0 for 3 from the field in the first half, and it was really all it took. I guess to me, the bigger picture question is, like, was that a turning point, or was that energy of the home crowd combined with knocking down a few shots, beating a team that is kind of slumping itself a little bit in Iowa State? Or is this, hey, this team is back to what we thought they were before? Either way, it was just a massive win to get for some good vibes rolling within the program again, because there had not been many for a while.
I mean, that was the biggest thing to me, is you just needed these guys to feel better about themselves after losing 5 of 7 games. And it would have been tough to swallow to lose another one on your home court and, lose 6 of 8. And then you have Baylor on Tuesday night. So you start to look at the schedule and then add Oklahoma State, and it starts to look like a gauntlet, to try and get to 9-9 in the Big 12 if you drop one there at home. And big time credit to respond in the second half, because I think most people in the stands were like, here we go again, 31-23. Iowa State's a tremendous defensive team. They're a top 10 defensive team in the country. And an 8-point lead against them with the pace they usually play with is probably more like a 12 or 13-point deficit against most teams, because they want to slow it down. They want to run the clock down, and they're a good defensive team. And so to come out of the gate so quickly in the start of the second half and just erase that 8-point lead by the first media timeout was just a huge answer. And it really came down, a lot of it, not only good defense, but they hit shots. And they hit 4 threes. They had 2 in the first half, and they hit 4 threes by the end of the first media timeout out of the gate to start the second half. And Marquise obviously had, I think, 3 big ones just in that stretch. And the one that he got the friendly roll that rolls in to give him the 37-34 lead. Cam Carter hit one as well from the corner. They were getting after it on the offensive glass to start the second half. Just played so hard. And I mean, you hold Iowa State to a season worst 30% from the floor. The worst they'd shot in a game was 35% from the floor on the year. And they really just had a poor shooting performance all around. K-State really responded on the defensive end. And I think that's where it started in that second half. Not only did they make some shots, but I think Iowa State was 22% overall in that second half until that Coucher 3 that was meaningless at the buzzer. So they responded at halftime and came out with an answer. And actually, I think that is the 4th or 5th time at home they've been down at halftime, John, in Big 12 play, and have come back and won the game. Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, this one, and then there was at least one other one as well that I'm probably blanking on, but West Virginia. So they've responded at halftime at a lot of these games.
Yeah, and it's clear the home crowd makes a definite difference. But I mean, the defense is really what I think deserves highlighting here. I mean, again, to me, it comes down to Marquise hitting shots in the defense. Marquise had been 6 of 31 from 3. That's 19%. That's 4 games before going 4 of 9 on Saturday. This makes a massive difference when he's knocking down some outside shots. And a lot of the looks he's been getting lately had been pretty open. But the defense, I mean, you tweeted it, season worst 31% shooting for Iowa State. K-State forced 15 turnovers. That turned into 19 points, which I think, you may look at that and be kind of like, all right, 19, that's nice, but it's not overwhelmingly crazy. But you think about a game where you only scored 61 points. I mean, 19 points, it's massive. And Iowa State plays really good defense. They defend the hell out of you in the half court. So when you can get 19 points off of turnovers and get out and run a little bit, it just makes a huge difference in the game. And let's be honest, like, this team has not always been a great defensive team. We've seen some better efforts at home defensively, but I don't know that we've seen a half as complete on the defensive end of the floor as what we saw in the second half on Saturday.
Yeah, 2 things there. So the turnover front, K-State only turns the ball over 11 times. That's huge because Iowa State is top 10 in the country in turnovers forced, with over 17 a game that they forced. So K-State took care of the ball for the most part, didn't lead to easy baskets for Iowa State, especially in the second half. So that was a big part of it. The defensive end of the floor, and we did the show after the Oklahoma game last week, and we talked about some of the defensive issues in that game. And to be fair, I do want to state, that was more isolated when you look at the whole season overall, that this has actually been a really good defensive team. So right now on KenPom, K-State ranks 18th in the country.
I stand corrected, Cole. My fault.
Well, no, and look, it's easy to think that way, definitely, because perception is different. But they're 18th in the country in KenPom and defensive efficiency. They have a 93.6 rating. That would be the second best over the last 10 years for K-State basketball in the KenPom era. So that's not the whole KenPom era, but we know Bruce Weber had some really good defenses. The only one that's been better than that was the 2018-19 defense that had an 88.4 rating when they won the Big 12 title. And that was a defense that ranked third in the country in KenPom. Now, Weber had also a couple other defenses early in his era that I think were better than this. But I just wanted to point that out because as you look at it, in 9 of their last 15 games, K-State has held opponents to 9% or worse below their season average from three. K-State by far and away is the best three-point defense in Big 12 play. They're holding teams to 28.9%. So that OU game was more of an outlier. And like you can look at the ISU game, 15% overall below their season average for field goal percentage. Texas Tech earlier this year, 14% below their season average. Oklahoma State, 11% below their season average on field goals. We could go on and on down the list. I went through it all. K-State has mostly held teams below their season averages by a significant margin on the defensive end of the floor. So I wanted to be fair to call out that OU game was more isolated than anything. And Jerome Tang, it sounds like it was a legs. They were tired. That was part of it. So it makes sense because we hadn't seen them like that where they didn't rotate. They a lot of open shots that OU had, and they got that corrected on Saturday, and they just played so hard.
Yeah, OU definitely looks like an outlier now. When it's not like the defense was terrible at Tech, and even when you consider the fact that they just hadn't been making shots too, that also I think you can pretty easily attribute to legs, or certainly that would stand to reason that legs would be a part of that. So credit Tang and the staff for the coaching adjustments, and we just heard Coach Sutton talking about that too. The discussions that they had about deciding to cut practices shorter, obviously very, very fruitful. Now you move on to play Baylor. That is not going to be easy. Second half in Allen Fieldhouse notwithstanding, where they just got blitzed by Kansas, playing about as good a half as we've seen anybody in the league play this year. Man, that backcourt, Baylor's got 3 guards. Obviously started with Flagler that are just tremendous. And the Cats, that win in Waco, it's funny to look back on it now. As impressive as anything K-State has done this year, going and winning that game right after the Texas game. That was the high watermark really of the season, winning those 2 games back-to-back. I don't know. I'm not crazy optimistic about this one coming up, but if you look at the totality of what K-State's done at home this year, the only loss is a game that they really threw away down the stretch against Texas when they had a 14-point lead. So they've been able to handle about anybody in this league inside that building.
I think that's the big thing. The betting lines aren't out yet. When people listen to this show, they very well may be. I would expect this to be close to a pick'em when that comes out because of the K-State home court advantage. K-State already won in Waco. Now Baylor is playing better. Obviously, they had won, I think, 8 of 9 or 9 of 10 before that KU game. And then, look, we know what happens in Allen Fieldhouse, and they come out up 16 at one point, and then that second half collapse, and it just snowballed. And it happens there in that building. So I wouldn't take too much away from that. It'll be interesting, though, how Baylor responds coming off of that. And so, and they had to travel. I believe they traveled back to Waco probably, and then they got to travel back to Manhattan. There's not a lot of time for them to prep for this game. So, but these teams do know each other, obviously. Scott Drew knows Jerome Tang. Jerome Tang knows Scott Drew. They've already played each other. So there's a familiarity there in place. Look, I think you can make an argument that Baylor's the most talented team in this league. From a pure standpoint, I don't think there's a better trio of guards, and that's not even including Langston Love, who I think is a really nice player as well at the guard position. So this is a really, really good team, and especially on the offensive end. And they have Jonathan Thambia back now. I probably mispronounced that. I just call him Everyday John or JTT, but he is back. He didn't play in the first matchup. He's a really good player, a great story. He's back for this matchup, and so that's another big that can rotate and switch. He's big for their defense, but this is the number 2 offense in America in KenPom, and so you're going to have to really guard. The one benefit that you have is they're not a good defensive team. They're 85th in the country in defensive efficiency, so you're going to be able to score, and we saw K-State score on them in Waco, right? It was 97 points, including the overtime. So I think K-State will have the ability to score on them. It's just going to be a matter of getting stops. And this is a really good shooting team. Baylor can really shoot it from three between Flagler, George, and Cryer. And you got to hope a couple of them have a little bit of off games. And they were 32% in the previous matchup against K-State from three. If you can hold them to something like that, I think K-State's got a really good shot.
And if you win, that is tying the school record for ranked wins, correct? At 7.
It would, for the regular season, according to KSU_fan, it would be the most top 25 wins ever in the regular season. It would tie, if you count the Big 12 tournament and 2009-10 season, the Elite Eight season. That team beat a ranked Baylor team, I believe, in the NCAA tournament. Laced Darius Dunn in the Big 12 tournament, and I gave them 7. So, yeah, it would be quite another resume builder on this resume. And, you think about it, and I know we'll get to this, but you look at that tournament committee, and putting K-State as a 3 seed going into Saturday, they had Iowa State as a 3 seed too, just one spot ahead of K-State. And you beat that Iowa State team that's a 3 seed. So you'd like to think K-State moved up a little bit already. And if you beat Baylor, who they have as a 2 seed, and sweep them on the season, K-State could be flirting with 2 seed territory at that point. So I think you feel really good. The thing I took away from it the most is we now know how the committee views K-State on their overall body of work. And if they can win even just 2 more games, I think they're at worst a 4 seed.
Which would be tremendous. Now, to avoid, if we're going to get way deep into the weeds, I like the idea of potentially avoiding the 1 seed and the Sweet 16 if you could get off the 4 or 5. But I will not be greedy about that because it is unreal that we're sitting here at this point talking about what it is that we are. And I still, I'm excited as hell about the Iowa State win. I am optimistic about Baylor to an extent. Maybe I poo-pooed that a little bit more than I should have earlier in the pod. I mean, they've got a chance, right? They've got a chance. But I still do wonder, and to me, Cole, this is a part of what the Baylor game's about. Feels to me sort of like a litmus test game. Like, has this team really found new life and turned themselves back into maybe not the scorching hot machine that they were when they won at Texas and Baylor, but something similar to what we saw in early to mid-January that has the potential of making a really deep run into the tournament? Or are they still just kind of stuck in this phase where they're a team that maybe is like round of 32 sort of ceiling potential and plays much better at home and can beat some good teams at home, but is going to struggle away from Bramlage Coliseum, kind of the version of the team that we've seen lately? And really what it reminds me of, I know this is not fair because this team wound up being an 11 seed in the tournament, but there have been some shades of like the Michael Beasley team, right? Where they started like 5-0 in Big 12 play, red hot. They beat Kansas, were on top of the world. And then the rest of the year, guard play got really inconsistent. Jacob Pullen was up and down. Clint Stewart was up and down. They couldn't get enough out of the supporting cast for like Beasley and Walker. And they just turned into a round of 32 team that had some nice wins and still had a nice season, but did not hit that peak that you thought that they might be at one point in time. I don't know what you think of that comp or if this Baylor game serving as a litmus test as to whether or not you're taking a big step forward, but that's the way I'm kind of viewing it right now.
Well, I think if you win, you can definitely view it as a major step forward. And I think the one encouraging thing you have here is that each of the last couple of times they had a home game, they didn't have a home game to follow it up with where they could bounce back or build a back-to-back type success performance, right? So you look at the TCU game, they won that. You were hoping they were back on the right track, but then they had to go on the road back-to-back games to Tech and Oklahoma. The Florida game, they then had to go back on the road to KU, which we know a hornet's nest it is there. And so I think having this game at home, coming off a top 20 win against Iowa State, everyone feeling good again. Hopefully the crowd is in a frenzy. You got a top 10 team coming to Manhattan. K-State's 14th in the polls today. Baylor's number 9. It should be an absolutely electric environment with a chance for K-State to vault potentially back into the top 10 here soon. And so if you come out and play really well, I think there's no question K-State can win this game and, have one of the best resumes in college basketball. If you win this game, when you look at high-end resumes, and I'm talking like high-end quad 1 wins, not just any quad 1 win where you win at a 60 team in the net or a 65th ranked team in the net on the road, K-State would have one of the top resumes in all of basketball. And I think this is the type of game you can start to really feel good about this team moving into March if they can pull out a victory. Even if Baylor just plays lights out of their minds, K-State plays well too, I think you can still feel okay. But you just look for K-State to come out and play well in this one, look sharp, and I think they will. I really do. I think they'll be ready to play, and I actually think K-State is going to win this game and really get the good mojo going again.
Well, as of Tuesday, when most of you, I would imagine, would be hearing this and the game is occurring, it will have been a month to the day since K-State won back-to-back games. So I'm with you that it's time to change that up for sure. And I hope that the 6 o'clock tip doesn't hurt the atmosphere too much. I know like the early tip, I am appreciative of it just from a trying to get to bed and waking up early standpoint because I'm an old man. But I do wonder about that with the crowd a little bit because the crowds have still been very good. I'm not here to crowd shame at all. The student section has dwindled a little bit, but everyone's been there. The rest of the arena, it's been loud, and that's really the point. It's been loud and rowdy, and people are certainly very into it. But combination of a little bit of dwindling student attendance and then a 6 o'clock tip does have me maybe slightly concerned about that.
It'll be a little bit. You remember the Oklahoma State game this year? It'll be a little bit of a late arriving crowd, I think, from the other sections in the stands of the season ticket holders. But the students should be there for this game, and hopefully a few more of them come out for this one. And fill those other sections. I know they're selling GA tickets for $20 a pop. So if you're listening to this, gobble those up and you can, pick your seats in section 24, 25. By all means, get there and support these guys and try to lift them to another big win.
All right, let's do it. Appreciate Cole. Appreciate Kevin Sutton for joining us today. Thanks to Jordan Foote for producing this thing. And, of course, Holiday Distillery for supporting our podcast. Make sure and go get your Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon and your 360 Vodka to continue to support them. That's going to wrap it up for us here on 3MA. Enjoy K-State Baylor, and we will talk to you soon. See you then.
Thanks for watching this production of KC Sports Network, the fastest growing sports media network in Kansas City. Check out these videos that feature our team of more than 15 former players, insiders, and analysts bringing you the best Chiefs coverage you can find. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.